Yeah, so stem cell, I'm not a stem cell therapy researcher, so to say, but it's more like stem cells in the adipose tissue, which is of course used for a lot of different things, because that's where people actually isolate stem cells from and then use it for stem cell therapy. But I'm not doing that. I'm actually doing, trying to understand the process of adipose or fat generation itself in the animals. But the questions that are really intriguing nowadays is that, so with the advent of technology, so we have a lot of new molecular biology technologies that have sort of exploded in the previous years. Something that I'm trying to talk about is single cell transcriptomic technologies. Not just transcriptomics, you have single cell transcriptomics, single cell proteomics, single cell genomics, and so on. So if you put all of them together along with molecular biology, it is really an explosion of knowledge, where you can gather a lot of information. So right now we are actually working with single cell transcriptomics in the group, and my project is involved in it. And the intriguing questions there is that we initially only knew that a tissue consists of certain type of cells. For example, I would just start with a very simple example of fat tissue, where fat tissue consists of adipocytes, which are the fat cells that stores lipids, right? But now we know, and then further ahead with advent of technology, we know that it's not just fat cells. You have other cells like immune cells that are important in regulating the functions of fat cells. And then you have stem cells and so on. So that was where the knowledge was. And then hit 2015 and so on, we have the single cell technology where now we know that it's not just one kind of fat cell, it's not just one kind of stem cell. You have multiple different varieties of the same kind of cell within the tissue. So it's only getting more and more complex. But if you look at it, it's a bit haphazard that, more and more information, more and more details. But what it all brings down to is that the point that you can understand biology more specifically, and you can actually treat people for more specific reasons, and not just, for someone who has diabetes, everyone gives metformin, right? So, but now we know that there are different kinds of diabetes. Initially, we knew type 1 and type 2, but now even within type 2 diabetes, there are multiple different varieties. And you need to be treated for your specific kind of type 2 diabetes. And not a lot of people know this. Not a lot of doctors know this, because it's not reached the clinical setup where we can actually treat them separately. So even in obesity, that's how it's going, that we have multiple different varieties of obesity. It's not just, gaining fat all over the body. What kind of fat are you gaining? Where in the body are you gaining fat? Does it associate with diabetes or not? These are a lot of more detailed and complex questions that are coming up in the field. And with the advent of these technologies, researchers all over the world are trying to answer these questions and try to find remedies to sort of mitigate different kinds of weight gain issues and so on. Another important question that in the field of obesity is that not all kind of weight gain is unhealthy. So we knew this because there is I think it's getting more and more fashionable to say that, insulin resistant and so on. So you have obese people who are sort of insulin resistant, and you also have obese people who are healthier and they don't have insulin resistance. So what makes them different? It's the same, it's the same fat that is getting absorbed into their bodies, but it really depends on where it's getting sort of hidden and what anatomical locations are the fat going to, and what other tissues are involved in the whole biology of it. So these are kind of very open questions that even laymen can understand, because we right now we are very much concerned. At least the new generation is very much concerned about nutrition and diet and timing of feeding and so on. So it's also important to know that when you gain and lose weight, where are you gaining it and where are you losing it from? So I would say that's the most intriguing part of my research field right now.
Oh, I think that is a very interesting thing which you said, especially about the good fat and the bad fat sort of a thing. So how you're gaining weight and whether it's good or not. So can you just elaborate a little bit on how can we identify whether we are gaining weight in the right way, or is it healthy for us, or is can we tell by looking at our own physiology, or is it just all internal mechanisms?
So unfortunately, that's the problem, that it's all internal as of now. But what? So this is not a new concept that there are two kinds of fat gain. That one, obese people is, so we classify them into two. One is apple shaped and one is pear shaped. And I guess it's very so the people who are very interested in workouts and everything, they know about it, and then they also talk about it. That apple shaped people have more upper body fat, and pear shaped people have more lower body fat. And histologically, so for a long time, we know that the lower body fat and the gain in lower body fat is not that unhealthy. Uh, we didn't call it healthy either. It's just that it's not as unhealthy as apple shaped fat gain. So the reason being that apple shape is more associated with your visceral fat, where you have, or visceral and subcutaneous, where you have more belly fat and more upper body, closer to the shoulders, behind your back, and so on. And the lower body is more in your butt and the area next to your thighs, and so on. So I guess if you just generally think about it, you can see the difference, because the upper body fat is bad because it's more associated with other organs. You have your liver, heart, pancreas and everything on the upper body, and then you don't have a lot of those internal organs. It's only muscles in the lower body, right? So that's the easier way to think about it, that this is why these two fat is different. And if you look at people, you can actually say that one has lower body fat and one has upper body fat. So that makes a difference. But even within upper body obese people, there are different classifications, and then what makes them different is that, again, where is the fat being accumulated, which can only be understood by an MRI scan, unfortunately. Even a DEXA scan wouldn't tell you, because a DEXA scan is going to tell you about the whole body fat composition and muscle composition and so on. But if you actually go further deep using MRI techniques, you can actually see that if you have a lot of ectopic, we call it ectopic fat, because these are fat which are not supposed to be there. So ectopic fat around the liver, ectopic fat around the heart, these are the things that actually cause more issues in the upper body fat people. So, like I said, it's unfortunate that we don't have an easier way of distinguishing them. But again, the field is getting there. So we are looking at more and more markers, more and more blood markers, more and more physical markers, where we can actually sort of classify between these kind of healthy and unhealthy fat gain. I would say it's getting closer. And if you know about the company Novo Nordisk, they have also started coming up with anti-obesity drug, which is one of them, which has already been there for a long time, and there's a new one that's coming up, which is gaining a lot of interest. Which all of this is keeping in mind that people are different and the fat gain is also different.